Welcome to another edition of the Civ Battle Royale. My name is Dawkinzz and this is episode 48, The Unexpected Value of an Air Force. As the Cylinder's largest superpowers expand and fight, smaller nations are left with a choice: grow or die. Starting on turn 431, let's get right into this. Good evening. I, Rand Stoddard, am your host for tonight's presentation. I've been around the CBR since near the beginning. I even remember Mark 1, but this is my first chance to narrate as I spent a majority of that time lurking. I'm looking forward to presenting you another thrilling installment in this saga, and without further ado, we begin. This week, it seems, all the remaining Civ balls got together for a portrait by a redundant sofa, before they go back to killing each other. I can confirm that for some of these Civs, this is a last known photograph. Honorable mention goes to Sevastopol Station's Journey to the Best, and Greg Nine's Biggest Loser. Both are a fun read. Check them out on the subreddit. Varia's tile-accurate map is one of those wonders of the world, like the pyramids or cheese. How or why Varia feels motivated enough to count every tile on the cylinder is a mystery of the universe, but we are all grateful it happens. This week the map reveals some interesting things. Bermuda is still barren, Eastern Europe and the Middle East are the border gore capitals of the world, and the Kazakhs, Iroquois, Moors, and Uruguay are working on their continent bonuses. I could put another map here, but I couldn't find one, and I already mentioned 3 typical pieces of OC, so I'll use this spot to give a shout out to Bob Smith IV's kill chart. The kill chart, as the name implies, shows which civs have killed who, and by extension, who hasn't been killed once. Using complex maths, I was able to calculate that there are 19 remaining civs. If this is inaccurate, expect Blue Cassette to yell at me. Funny how the 2 boring civs border. Could something happen there? I'm actually writing this before the power rankings come out, so I'll have to rely on my psychic abilities for this slide. After lots of meditation, tea leaf reading, crystal staring, and general hooliganism, I'm predicting the top spot goes to the Kazakhs. Shocking, I know. I am also predicting in the PR comment section, Lax and Cloud make a funny, snarky comment. Another PR casts some doubt on the decision, and the deviation is something like 0.3. And picture is that flaming Kazakh Civ ball from last week's episode and some comment beneath it like, "The Khan thirsts for new lands to conquer." If I got any of this right, I will be opening my fortune-telling business. And we begin today's action with this wonderful action shot. Observe the Iroquois biplane just south of Ninstins, coming back from a bombing mission to who knows where, probably Métis. The slide also gives us a look at the Métis, who are continuing their spectacular collapse from last week's episode, losing Frenchman's Butte and Prince Albert since the last part. Lac la Biche, which is French for "oh my gosh, the Iroquois are coming," seems next on the chopping block. However, it has added defense in the form of what appears to be some lost Nubian archers and a Benin explorer. It's nice to see such cooperation, unless of course that Nubian knight is coming to conquer the city for themselves. In exciting news, Madagascar and the Vikings have made peace. The Madagascan Voha Maria units scattered around eastern Siberia are ecstatic to hear the news. They no longer have to keep wandering around Siberia to avoid fighting. As for the main theme on this slide, besides Dogo, which I'm sure no one has mentioned before, is Iwo Jima, whose citizens must be getting whiplash after going from Shikoku to Kazakh to Uruguayan. At least the sign makers can keep busy translating all the government notices from Japanese to Kazakh to Spanish. It is a pretty big deal for Uruguay to get a foothold in Asia, though reinforcements will be a challenge. Perhaps the biggest effect is how this splits the Shikokuan cities from the unstoppable Kazakh army, saving them from Uruguayan armies. Pour Shikoku out of the frying pan and into the sun. Of course, with everyone here at war with everyone else, who knows what will happen. Oh, and Yokohama fell, officially driving Shikoku from any actual Japanese island. The Kazakhs still have a front in northern Siberia though, and they are pressing hard. Tosanahari falls, but it's hard to feel bad for those citizens considering they were crazy enough to settle in northern Siberia in the first place. Sakamoto, watching his empire disintegrate, comes up with the only rational response: spam settlers. There are 3 on this slide alone. Looks like Sakamoto is really banking on those mountains between him and the Kazakh hordes. Nothing, he thinks to himself, can cross a mountain. Let's not spoil his dream and tell him about planes or artillery. Gift Lake has been regifted to the Iroquois, though a one-pop heavily pillaged and citadeled city on the border of another nation might actually be worse than socks. I guess the one guy who lives there might actually like it though, but in worse news for the Métis, Wood Mountain has fallen, apparently due to the tactical genius of a nearby missionary. Now that Hiawatha has an actual border with the stunted Shikoku, it might be a good idea to press his advantage and grab as much of Shikoku as he can before Uruguay gets it. The Kazakhs strike, snagging Iwo Jima again and Yautahama from Uruguay and the temporary capital Karalik from Shikoku. Uruguay has a unit in position to snag Tsukumo on their next move, but the Shikoku fleets seem robust enough to ensure some flipping. Also, everyone waved to the Benin Explorer again. Finally, the biggest event of this slide is the war declaration in the corner. The Moors have decided to erase Prussia from the map, but this is Prussia. I don't expect them to go down without a fight. The mighty Prussian military will surely give us a show we will not long forget. Oh, well, it looks like they died. Still, Prussia has some units lying around, including one of their uniques. I suppose they could retake the city. They don't. So, it's time for a eulogy. While Prussia didn't enter the endgame in the worst place, their start certainly wasn't the best. Nevertheless, Frederick managed to outlast other civs who came in much better spots. Prussia ran a solid game, but was always cursed by the TSL gods, the true start location. Before the CBRX started, I ranked Prussia 42nd, and I doubt many expected them to make it to the endgame. I guess no one expected an endgame either, but if they did, they wouldn't have expected Prussia to make it. I remember all the way back when we were doing tests for CBRX Season 1, Prussia was like last place. They always got eaten up, so I'm very proud of them. Frederick should be proud, hey, he's proud too, to have so dramatically exceeded expectations. Their legacy will be one of perseverance, terrible border gore, and timing their death so that we can get a break from staring at the Bering Sea. Godspeed, Frederick. F. In events which Sakamoto Ryoma has decided must be witchcraft, the invading Kazakh units have advanced past the mountain barriers. After meeting with his council, Sakamoto has decided to set up a new defensive position behind some different mountains, but deep inside he knows that things are rapidly concluding. The Kazakhs meanwhile use their newly acquired city to fire upon a ship. We assume this is a Shikoku frigate, but since there is no icon, I am choosing to believe this is a Chin ship that miraculously appeared. You can believe what you like. Furthermore, Karalik has fallen, causing Sakamoto to move his government to Cyrenaic. Not where I would have gone, but maybe he likes being on the front lines. These are dark times in eastern Siberia. From the cold Bering Sea to the Indian Ocean, home of the Australian sea lion Neophoca cinerea, the dugong dudgeon, which I think is a Pokemon, the Indo-Pacific finless porpoise, Neophocena fossata, and Madagascar, sure. Taking a closer look at Madagascar, we see a nation who are still rejoicing in the peace treaty with the Vikings. Madagascar isn't a very big nation, and its lack of science is beginning to show with some outdated units. Still, they technically have a unit carpet. Meanwhile, surrounding Madagascar is the mighty Zimbabwe. Matota may want to be careful, though, as he is beginning to carrier spam, and worse yet, carrier spam without any planes on the carriers. Also, everyone waved to the Parthian trireme, stuck in its one-tile prison. I hope you enjoyed your vacation, because we are back in the Bering Sea, just in time to watch Uruguay move into Sukhoma and Cyrenaic. Will they hold them? Probably not, but I won't tell. Keep reading to find out. Also note the fleet of Chin frigates, on one of which a thoroughly drunk Ying Zhang, having drunk the Uruguayan rum before being picked up by his last fleet, barks orders for an invasion of Australia, which the admiral of the fleet silently ignores as he navigates his fleet towards safe harbor. Final note, it seems the Iroquois have built a wonder. It isn't a normal wonder or a future world wonder, and after much searching, Discord user The Last Place has, I believe, correctly identified it as the Sky Tower Wonder from New Zealand, which does as follows. The Sky Tower provides a 15% reduction in unhappiness from citizens in non-occupied cities, 1 gold for every 4 citizens in the city, and a free broadcast tower in the city where it's constructed and becomes available with ecology. Now you know. The Moors, fresh off killing the Prussians, decide to fight someone a little bigger, and as you can see here, the front isn't exactly packed with units, but it's not empty. The Moors have a clear edge due to upgraded units. Those subs should clear the seas of Palmyra's wooden ships quickly. Don't count Palmyra out though, we currently have some skirmishing around where a clever civ would have settled a Black Sea canal, and already some damage to Magdeburg. However, I expect the first casualty to be the Palmyrene-occupied Prussian city of Berlin. The Iroquois build the Sydney Opera House, and many claim the sound of Australian cursing can be heard across the cylinder. Finally, wave to the Prussian refugees moving into Africa. My prophecy was correct. I promise I didn't look ahead. Well, okay, I did, but forgot what happened. Berlin has fallen to the praise of cartographers and the dismay of border gore lovers everywhere. The Moorish Air Force has thinned the Palmyrene army and landed some paratroopers behind enemy lines. Dura Europa's, current contender for silliest named city, is already in red, as is the Lido deck on Crete. Also, bonus points to the Moors for putting planes on their carriers. Dura Europos has fallen and both Lido and Germancia are black. This is less a fight and more a slaughter. This is why you always focus on science, kids. This is an opportunity for Benin. If they can get to the cities before the Moors, they have a chance of uniting their empire. Also, I just noticed we have an unused spy. I propose we send them to Moreau to hang with somehow still alive Nubians. Oh, and the Great Firewall is built by, you guessed it, the Iroquois. A new front for this part. Here we see the remnants of the Australian Empire. Invading them won't be easy, but they are ultimately no match for some of the superpowers on the cylinder. Instead of dreams of winning it all, the Australians are relegated to more peaceful pursuits. Knitting becomes the national pastime, with rugby being deemed too violent. Cricket is still around because no one understands how it is played anyway. This week, the Australians are putting on a boat show, specifically a brown boat show. Palmyra has a presence, but most entrants are from Tongu. I suppose that Tongu could be building up their forces for an attack on Australia, but that would be rather rude after Australia invited them to their boat show in the first place. As for Uruguay-occupied Australia, or the UOA, aside from the occasional insurrections from the emu variety, all is calm, and the Uruguayans are slowly building up their military presence here. If you really hate someone, tell them to find the Benin boat in this picture. If your name is Homosubi, the following images may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. As is becoming the tradition in these parts, after falling to Uruguay, the former Shikoku cities are falling to the Kazakhs, because the Kazakhs really need more cities. Most notably, the fall of Cyrenaic to the Kazakhs is the first time the Kazakhs have stepped foot into the New World. Perhaps they will find it too snowy and cold and quickly leave. If the attacks on Ninstins are any indication, though, they intend to stay. Uruguay, recognizing the utter uselessness of controlling cities for one turn before losing them to the Kazakhs, have made peace with Shikoku. Surprisingly, it looks like they didn't gain anything in the peace deal. Good negotiation, Sakamoto. Well, this doesn't look great for the Métis. Lac La Biche has fallen, sending the government to Loon Lake. I think there might be some symbolism here. Anyway, the Métis defense seems to be in large part based on recruiting stragglers to stand around their last city so the Iroquois can't get in. That seems like a less than ideal strategy to me, but when your country is a 90% dead city on a peninsula supported by 2 ironclads, a frigate, and a cannon, you don't have many options. We will have to see if they can hang on. We also get a good look at the Venezuela Pacific colonies. Venezuela is most definitely a rump state, but they have some fight left in them. If they were dumb enough, they could conceivably take Merida before being dissolved. I do find the double citadel on Koro Island funny, though. Good news for Shikoku fans? Nothing. Bad news for Shikoku fans? Everything in this slide. Shikoku loses 2 more cities, and the new capital, Otazaka, is defended primarily by a Parthian unit. At least it seems that Sakamoto has the units to do some flipping, but every Shikoku citizen must know they are only delaying the inevitable. From one route to another, Palmyra is crumbling at the hands of the Moors. The Lido deck has been surrendered, Termencia is surrendered, and Palmyra is in the red. It's hard to tell with the clashing colors, but it appears that Benin has sent a trebuchet towards the capital. Perhaps the most exciting thing on this slide is the Indian settler next to Kachan. All India needs now is a city to be raised, which perhaps explains why it's moving towards the Goths. 2 turns later. Yeah, things didn't get better. Tremencia fell, as did Antioch, giving the Moors control of the Holy Hand Grenade. Palmyra and Callinicum are both in deep red, and the main Palmyra defense seems to be charging helicopters with horses. As we try and look away from the slaughter, we can see Zimbabwe and Oman. Looks like a nice enough place. Reminds me that either Zimbabwe or Porthia could use this ongoing route as an opportunity to pick up some cities. Palmyra falls, causing Zenobia to retreat to the much more defensible Hyderabad. While Callinicum and the rest of Arabia looks sure to fail, Zenobia could be smart to try and create a defensive line around Circesium, save as much as you can without jeopardizing the rest. Then again, why on earth would an AI listen to my advice? What do I know? Also, that's a decent-sized Madagascan army wandering around the Parthian capital. As you probably saw in the last slide, the Vikings and Venezuela have decided the Métis have it too easy and need to be attacked by more people. They may have a point, because the Métis have actually captured a city. Granted, this city was theirs before, and they lost their only city in the process, but they say to always look on the bright side of death. Oh, wait, what's that? Métis and Iroquois declared peace. Guess that's smart for the Iroquois. Avoid that elimination penalty, but still, great negotiation skills by Real. On a more serious note, the Venezuela declaration of war may be problematic, especially now that the Métis Defense League, which primarily consists of Nubian units, is no longer in position to protect the last Métis city. The Métis will survive a while longer, but I might have to write another eulogy this part. We shall see soon. Kazakhs continue to march. Savak, Ayo Saijo, and Nuktak fall, leaving the few surviving Shikoku government officials huddled in Otsaka, waiting for the inevitable. But you know, feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, Ninstance, the last holdout of the Shikoku. Somehow Sakamoto Ryoma and his government got out of Otsaka and into Ninstance during the city capture. Whoever made that flight over enemy territory should get every medal the Shikoku offer. Unfortunately, it was probably a futile gesture, delaying death by a few seconds. But I guess every second matters. It's going, and it's gone. Rip Shikoku. Somehow dying before the Métis, the Shikoku are evidence that you should be ready to die at any moment, cause at any moment the unstoppable Kazakh juggernaut could decide to eat your land. Shikoku were primarily a naval empire, and they certainly outperformed the Japanese of previous CBRs. For a while there, they looked like they had a solid core and a real chance. Unfortunately, Shikoku faced invasion by the two strongest nations on a cylinder, both of whose armies outclassed Shikoku in tech and numbers. Shikoku was doomed from the moment the invasion started, but they never gave up and they went out fighting. Their legacy will be one of courage in the face of impending doom and boats. Godspeed, Sakamoto Ryoma. F. Well, Circesium wasn't held, and it looks like Arabia will be lost to Palmyra. This has forced Zenobia to retreat to a new line near Poon. The Palmyran navy could force a few flips, but it seems that the only thing that could stop the Moorish advance is the Moors deciding it's just not worth it. I will say that this episode is making the case that the Moors might be one of the top tier civs. Bertha, Kiteve, and Hierapolis all fall, driving Zenobia to agree to a peace deal at the cost of Poon. In the matter of a few turns, Palmyra has been reduced to a city-state. We get to see the rest of Venezuela, however, we only get that privilege because the Iroquois have decided they don't want Venezuela to exist anymore. The Venezuelan fleet and the Uruguay borders make any actual approach difficult, but the overwhelming Iroquoian air superiority, partly based on those shiny new supercarriers, has allowed them to already bring Puerto Cabello to half health. There also seems to be some Moorish units in Uruguayan waters. Scouting expedition or unit overflow? You decide. I'll be honest, this doesn't seem like a brilliant move. What I'm fairly sure happened here is Mithridates went to visit Hawk, and one thing led to another, and soon both leaders were very, very drunk. I suspect Mithridates called Hawk a coward, Hawk called Mithridates a coward, and they both agreed to not be cowards together and attack the Kazakhs. While Hawk will likely wake up with a headache, he is far enough away to maybe laugh about this one day. But Mithridates will be lucky to wake up at all. It's been 4 turns since we were last here. Pretty impressive for little Venezuela to last that long against the Iroquois. Alas, their demise was inevitable. They still have Caracas, but you have to believe that that won't last long. Of potential future interest is what happens if Caracas is taken by the Iroquois, giving them a foothold on South America. La Vieja likely won't like that, and it may be a casus belli. Speaking of casus belli, seems like the Iroquois might have had one. Let's check out that notification some more. Yes, the Iroquois, who have brought a grand total of 1 non-garrisoned unit to the front, and an anti-aircraft gun at that, have declared war on the Kazakhs. Perhaps Parthia and Australia were forewarned of this, and that's why they declared war. The Iroquois' battle plan seems clear: try and grab an instance without a navy, while simultaneously defending against the Kazakh army which isn't there. Yeah, this war will likely take a while to warm up. Also, wave to the Chin frigate. Hey guys, it's Glycolysis here, also known as Sir Malik. You know, that old famous guy from Mark II? Yeah, that one, the Divin guy. It's me. I'm back for a single slide to narrate at the gracious allowance of Rance. He's allowing me to narrate, isn't that cool? Sorry for the typos, I'm not of sobriety. Anyway, I've been told blue guys have declared on purple guys. I really like the purple guys mod, and men behind the what's it called. The crazy thing here is that the Kazakhs are insane, like seriously. Have you seen the Chin? Me neither, they aren't here. Purple guys, I think Bactria are doomed. They lasted too long anyway, so, you know. They have no reason to be here anymore. It's time for blue dominance. Let's go, boys. This is Malik, washed up former ruler of Divin, signing out. Peace. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed that. As for the situation at hand, Parthia has lost 2 cities, Ekbatana and Kuchan. I know that their names are because the Kazakh cities have legible city names. I mean, I can usually make out the Parthian ones, but the Kazakh ones are clear. This one fact nearly makes some root for Kazakh domination. Anyway, I'm impressed with how well the heavily citadeled cities are doing. I guess the Kazakhs didn't have much of an army nearby since war wasn't expected, but still, the Parthians are surviving better than I expected. Also, watch the Indian settler, who doesn't appear to have any open borders with the Kazakhs. It may be interesting to see where they teleport. Somehow, the island of Koro, which is perhaps the most heavily fortified island on the cylinder due to all of its available tiles being claimed by citadels, has fallen to the Iroquois. The lesson here is twofold. 1, citadels can't defend from air attacks, and 2, citadels are ineffective against sea attacks. 2 more Parthian cities fall, including the capital Nisa. Perhaps the most unexplainable thing on this slide is the random Zimbabwe tile in the Afghan mountains. Is this some kind of Bertawil situation where no one actually wants to claim that tile lest they lose their claim to somewhere else? Did the people on that tile overthrow their government because they wanted to be Zimbabwean? Or did Zimbabwe go and conquer this random one tile by force and now keep it as some kind of military base? Why did the Zimbabweans let the Parthians use their tile? Is the Prussian unique unit involved in this somehow? Find out next week on The Mystery of the Zimbabwean Tile, only on the History Channel. 8 turns after the war started, the Iroquois have landed in South America. I'm sure La Vieja is on his way over now with a welcome to the neighborhood Molotov breadbasket. My theory is Hiawatha was annoyed about the Métis preventing him from the North America continent bonus, so we decided to ensure La Vieja couldn't get the South American bonus. All I know is that, as a fan of clean borders, this annoys me. Also, wave to the Iroquois cyber subs, especially the one with 4 units, and I'm betting those aren't guided missiles. Finally, it appears Nubia has declared war on the Kazakhs. Bold move there, buddy. And just like that, the last 3 Parthian cities fall and Mithridates is finished. No matter who you root for, you have to recognize Parthia's incredible perseverance. Before the game started, I ranked them 13th, and they fought the whole game to prove me right. Central Asia is one of the most Oh, freak, Parthia's still alive. Zarakratra didn't fall, and if you don't believe me, look just north of that Zimbabwe tile and you can see a Parthia border faintly, and it's also kind of visible on the minimap. Normally I'd delete that report of Parthia's death, but considering it took me till slide 45 to find out that they were actually alive, I think I'll keep it here in anticipation. I expect to finish it soon. Clearly, the most important thing on this slide is the Moors building the Pentagon. I wonder if the Pentagon is actually a pentagon on the cylinder. All the other forts in the cylinder are hexagons, and citadels are some weird star shape. But then again, the American Pentagon was originally designed as a pentagon for simple architecture reasons. The piece of land they were going to build on had 5 sides, so maybe that shape would carry over. Anyway, what you all really care about is Uruguay versus the Kazakhs. The Kazakh military looks slightly more advanced, but they carrier spammed, which could open the door for the older, more diverse Uruguayan fleet. The glorious BC overlords have actually provided us with a cool action shot. We can see the Uruguayan bomber circling Jew, which is already down to half health. We will have to check the next few slides to see who has an edge here. Also, wave to the Chin Trebuchet. Remember when the Iroquois versus Kazakh War happened and I said it would take a while to heat up? Well, it's warm now. Thanks in large part to the Uruguayan diversion, the Iroquois are marching forward. Uruguay has already captured Yawantahama and Instance, which has allowed Hiawatha to focus on Iyo Saijo. The combined efforts of the Iroquois, Uruguay, and Nubia may actually be enough to halt the growing menace. Really couldn't have done it without the Nubians. Could that be the final legacy of Parthia? In 2017, the medical journal The Lancet conducted a study which compared all the ways people can die. It was discovered that approximately 0.01% of deaths are due to exposure to forces of nature. Now, I'm no coroner, but that's what I'm putting down as this cause of death. It may seem sudden, just on the last slide they were a critical part of the Stop Kazakh Task Force, and now they are dead. It may seem sudden because it was sudden. What seems to have happened is a Moorish training mission had mechanical difficulties and crashed into Nubia, accidentally landing on the country's entire military. Nubia's eulogy could have been written many parts ago. Nubia is an archer-spamming settling novice who has gotten this far on a combination of diplomacy, dumb luck, coincidence, magic, a few clever wars, and even more luck. Still, everyone loves a plucky underdog, and we all will be sad to see them go. But before you get too sad, remember underdog fans can now go root for the Métis. Their legacy will be archers, perseverance in the face of adversity, and settling their capital 1 tile away from a Suez Canal. Godspeed, Paye. F. Back to the Great War, which the Vikings have just joined. Here we see Uruguay making a strong push in the South China Sea, 3 Kazakh cities in red, but progress has been slowed by an immense amount of Tonggu ships. If Banyang got in this war, then we'd really be cooking with fire. For those who didn't believe me before, here is proof Parthia exists. Though it looks like I may get to post the rest of my eulogy soon. Their last city is deep in the red, and they just picked up 2 more declarations of war, albeit irrelevant ones. Parthia is really hoping that their buddies Uruguay and the Iroquois can save their skins. The other news from the last slide is in focus here. The Moorish campaign for clean borders and happy cartographers is moving on to the Goths. I don't know how many civs the Moors can kill before international opinion turns on them, but Abd al-Rahman doesn't care. For the Goths, time is limited. Aramar is already in the black, and while the Gothic army will slow the Moorish advance, just as surely as the tide rises, the Moors will push into Aramar. Also, wave at the cool future era improvement outside of Oyum. According to this guide, in a link below by T.A. Knight, which I am assuming is accurate. If it isn't, I expect BC will yell at me, so y'all know that it's accurate. What we have here is the communication array. What this bad boy does is provide more gold than a trading post, but it has the added benefit as adding culture or science bonuses when future techs are discovered. I'd recommend you keep the below guide around when reading future CBRX episodes if you don't play with the Future Era mod much. Saves a lot of head scratching. The Kazakhs push back, taking Jinyang and causing Tanu to flip. All the Uruguayan cities in Japan have no health, and Kazakh units have landed on Hokkaido and Honshu. A Chin worker looks on, just wishing people would stop pillaging all the tiles they work so hard to repair. Hawk clearly hasn't forgotten about his drunk declaration of war on the Kazakhs, cause while everyone else is being pushed back, he manages to take Jianjing. Will he hold it? Almost assuredly not, but it's a moral victory that may get the Australians out of their knitting rut. On the very next turn, the Iroquois make an important breakthrough in Alaska, taking Sevak. Kazakh air power is putting most Iroquois cities in the black, but without nearby melee units, the bombing campaign is just a waste of resources. A little further south, Uruguay marches into Sukumo, but the real question is, how will the Kazakhs respond? Violently is the answer. They take Tanu, Geelong, and Wanjian and send a large fleet through the Tsugaru Strait. Also of note, the Iroquois make peace with Venezuela, considering Uruguay being in the way and Venezuela's new border with the Kazakhs. This seems wise. Zimbabwe's core. It's a pretty nice core as cores go. Units are a tad bit behind the times, but the navy is pretty nice. Also quite a lot of great person improvements. Fun fact, the city of Zvangombe in real life was the capital of the kingdom of Matapa, a successor state to Great Zimbabwe. Also of note is the lack of Zimbabwean Air Force. They might want to work on that. Big day for the Iroquois, not only holding on to Sevak, but pushing into Iosaijo and more excitingly into Asia with the capture of Oaxaca. We are truly entering an era of globalism. Not such a great day for Uruguay as the Kazakhs take Yakuwatama back. Wave to the Métis cannon and rifle. They are definitely much more useful around here than back defending the only Métis city. 3 turns later, we have lost one of the civs that reached both the Old and New World, but it wasn't the Iroquois. In fact, Hiawatha has driven the Kazakhs out of Alaska altogether and pushed all the way to Imabari, while also utilizing their navy to take the island of Nyaktak and bring Tosatsuno and Sukumo to half health. Contrary to my initial expectations, Uruguay seems to be the slacker in this group. 8 turns since war was declared, Arheimer still stands even though the entire Gothic army has been destroyed save a garrisoned cannon. The issue is the Moors have fallen for the old trying to take cities with helicopters trap. Frustrated by this lack of progress, Australia, and more seriously for Alaric, Benin, declare war. Alaric does have some Madagascan peacekeepers helping him out, so he might stick around a while yet. It looks like the Australian capture of Dianjiang was a Battle of Midway moment in this war, just not for Australia. The Iroquois are making the Kazakhs look like Shikoku, taking Sukumo, Wanjian, and, according to the minimap, Tosatsuno. Can Hiawatha keep the pressure up, though? And will Uruguay ever rebound? It's Tongu time, but maybe not the time they want. The Zimbabwe-Tongu front looks pretty even. Both have great war infantry, both have privateers, but Zimbabwe has an unmatched air force, artillery, and citadels instead of forts on the front line. I'm expecting a close war at first, but as it drags on, Zimbabwe will gain a decisive edge. Also, wave to the Yupik crossbowmen. The Iroquois take Yawatahama, the city's 4th owner this part, and Tosa-Aki, but the Kazakh counteroffensive has arrived. Furthermore, I'm not sure I'd keep my entire air force in the 0-health frontline city. We will have to wait and see if this strategy will pay dividends or not. Here we have confirmation that Australia has indeed given up Jianjiang, but they also got a peace deal, which all things considered seems like an okay trade-off. At least they didn't trade away half their core for peace. The Kazakh offensive also has Yake, which is not to be confused with Yaku, which is just to the south. down into deep red. Zimbabwe takes first blood, which isn't hard to do when every city anywhere near the front is at 0 health thanks to your bombing campaigns. What we are learning here, kids, is don't forget to build your air force. We also have Parthian Gothic peace, a big load off both of those countries' mines. Here we have a mystery. Somewhere between slide 58 and now, Tongu apparently declared war on Venezuela. This seems like a smart move, given those massive Tongu fleets some reason for existing, but with Tongu already facing one opponent whose tech and military eclipse them completely, they should probably do everything they can to avoid angering the Kazakhs to the point where they will face another, and I'm not sure the Kazakhs will take kindly to this invasion on their front porch. Bago falls as the Tongu begin building an air force, but it may be too little too late. The Tongu Corps is embarrassingly bereft of units, and once Zimbabwe gets a foothold, it will be hard to take it back. Wave to the sub. Now stop moving. The Moors have a sub just outside the protective mountain barrier, which has protected us from snoops for ages. But just now, the Moors have completed the Apollo project, meaning they will soon be at the point where they can use satellites to look over the mountains. As the cylinder enters the future age, we here on the sub are going to have to be extra vigilant to ensure our watcher status goes undisturbed. Also thank the camera operator who grabbed this great shot of a Zimbabwean bomber attacking a Tongu privateer. It really says a lot about the importance of not falling behind in tech. Also, looks like Bago is flipping. They say things come in pairs. For every capital lost, a capital is gained. Now, I don't know if I'd say losing your original capital is equal to picking up a temporary capital from a dying micronation, but let's go with it so Tongu can feel better about itself. For Venezuela, this is just bad. Not really an upside at all. Only upside I can think of is that they won't die in this part, so I don't have to write another eulogy. Which reminds me, since Parthia isn't likely to die in the next slide, if whoever narrates the part where they do die wants an already completed eulogy, just let me know. I've really got no other use for it. We end, not with a shot announcing Parthia's destruction, but with a shot of Edo. Although the Tongu capital and other core cities are currently flipping, I believe the camera operator felt that showing violence in the final scene was not in the peaceful nature of the CBR, and he has instead chosen to grant us this peaceful parting shot, far away from the noise and excitement of a war. What can we observe from this slide? Benin is falling to the Tongu trap. They look big, but they are techs behind and have an outdated military with fairly low city strength. Also, everyone waved to the Haida settler. If anyone saw where the Indian settler teleported to after the Parthian collapse, let me know in the comments. Finally, I want to give a big shout out to the BC team and thank them for making narrating such a simple and user-friendly process. And with that, I think it's time to conclude what has indeed been an exciting episode of the CBRX. Until next time, I'm Rand Stoddard, reminding you to study hard and always build an Air Force. And my name is Dawkinzz. Thanks for watching. Please click my face at the end of this video. That'll subscribe, like it, comment, do whatever you want. It's great. I appreciate it. Awesome. Please, everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.